As a dungeon master, you don't need any more tools when it comes to weather or terrain because everything is always sunshine and beautiful, because that's boring as absolute get out. So let's talk about how to use storms to enhance both combat, setting, and the intensity of your role-playing sessions just by introducing storms into your setting. Hang on, because this one is going to be a windy one. When it comes to storms in Dungeons & Dragons, something that we have to talk about is how to use them. Number one way to use storms is actually not in combat. It's outside of combat to have a pressure to put onto the players. The players are needing to accomplish something, but a storm is coming in. And we're not talking about like, hey, look, there's some storm clouds. We're talking the deep, dark clouds with the lightning coming in that's blackening out the sky. That pressure that it puts on is you now have hours before that storm gets here. When the storm arrives, you're going to have high winds, lightning, thunder. It's going to be difficult to see. You've got rain coming down. It's flooding chances, and everyone's going to be going inside and buckling down because you've got a massive storm coming in. This can put pressure on the party to act faster, moving them towards a direction. This can be whatever direction the party wants to go on, but you as the dungeon master now have a way to push the party just by continuously bringing up the storm. If they haven't moved forward fast enough when the storm arrives, you now give them additional challenges. And trust me, storms can bring havoc and mayhem. So let's talk a little bit about that also. Lightning and gusts of wind are amazing tools for combat. When you actually have a battlefield that's dimly lit or dark, when lightning lights up the sky and all of a sudden they see the bad guys on the edge, they see them for a split second, for just a moment. Remember, dark vision usually only goes out 60 feet. So giving your guys, giving your characters, your players, a chance to see the real nasty on the horizon just for a moment can be terrifying. Gusts of wind can also do the same thing by blowing over trees, creating obstacles. Those instantaneous effects can change the landscape the players are dealing with. It can show them things that they may not have otherwise seen, or it can hide things in the darkness that even the moon above can no longer see through those clouds. So remember, lightning and gusts of wind give you instant motion or instant things that can change how the party feels about what they're about to go into. I love using this aspect of storms, especially before the rain comes, before the havoc and the mayhem. The lightning lights up the sky, showing you goblins all along the tree line. What do you do as players? Do you rush out there and find them? Do you buckle down and let the goblins come to you? That can be an amazing encounter in itself. Some of the village gets ransacked, but the players survive the night as the goblins try to get in and kill them. Have fun with that. How would you use lightning in your games too? What would you show the players? I'm curious. The other thing you can use is pure darkness. When a storm rolls in, it's darkness, beyond darkness, and that makes it dark. But rain gives you lack of visibility. So it may not be dark out, but you can only see 30 or 40 feet because the rain is coming down so high. The thing is that a lot of times we think of 30 or 40 foot, but 100-foot visibility is where combat really should begin. Most of us have combat beginning really within that 30 to 60-foot range, and we fail to remember that we have ranged weapons. We have the ability to overwhelm the party by giving them a chance to whittle down some of the small members as they come towards us, beginning at 120 feet. So what's interesting is when you have heavy obscured or darkness and the players are fighting, you can actually have waves of bad guys move in. I almost said waves of zombies because zombies and waves seem to go hand in hand as zombies come around the corner. But in this case, they simply come out of the visibility of the night. They simply come out of the visibility of the rain. Storms give you both darkness and rain to obscure visibility, allowing you to add monsters as you need to if the encounter was too easy or too simple. So visibility allows you more flexibility as a dungeon master and also limits the playing field which the party is doing, giving advantage on those that are willing to close the distance. You could even do as much as anyone that's with outside of 10 foot is lightly obscured. In Dungeons & Dragons, that's a mechanical disadvantage of -2 or heavily obscured for disadvantage altogether. Then it encourages people to move up so they can actually hit their targets. Meaning as in the goblins don't care if they're hitting or not. So they are shooting at the party, but the party doesn't have enough members to shoot back. So the fighters have to move into range to be able to actually do damage. It creates a versatility on the playfield that you might not have otherwise had. You also can use survival skills in kind of succinct with storms. If the player is out and about, the storms can change the way the land is laid. If there was a bridge that's now washed away and the parties are stranded on the other side, it's up to the ranger's survival skills to keep them alive. The ranger now has to track to get back to find a way. They have to find a way around the river. They have to find something, which now makes exploration part of the pillar. Storms are not just about a combat mechanic. They can be used to change the landscape to make survival a thing. Also, during the storm, using survival skills to make it so you have shelter, find shelter, get yourselves hidden in. What about when you find that cave and inside that cave is an owlbear? It's a great owlbear encounter. Now, the question is, does the party go ahead and rest? Do they know well enough that owlbears are solitary creatures and that would now be a safe place? Maybe that's a survival check, a nature check, a lore check, an animal handling check. All of those checks would be valid at my table with varying degrees of difficulty. If you succeed, I tell you everything. If you don't succeed, no, you don't think that it would be safe to stay there. Even though it would, you remembered wrong. I love the fact that a storm can change the playing field entirely, not just in combat, but out of combat, bringing up actual skill checks, survival checks, allowing a ranger to actually have a usage within your party. How would you use storms to actually affect the terrain, the surroundings, to make it so exploration and survival become something? Where would you place that? Where would you place that? I would do a combination of the storm is coming. There are things that are getting in the way of the party, small encounters. Do they make it? Do they just bypass those encounters altogether to get to the bridge and bypass the bridge while the storm washes away? But now they can't get back across to deal with what they were dealing with. There's so many amazing ways that you can change the terrain by having a massive storm come in. The storms also make travel by water almost impossible. And this is really important. If you're on a coastline and a storm is coming in, it can destroy ships, destroy means of travel, stranding the party, meaning the party now is stuck here and they're gonna have to find a way to get out. Now, I don't like railroading, but at the same time, this can create obstacles that the party can actually get past. Now, if the party has an amazing way to protect their boat through the storms, what happens when the storm avails itself? The only way out is the boat, and players are the only ones that have a boat. That's now a new challenge. By utilizing storms to stop or prohibit basically water travel, that does a thing. And the thing is it doesn't have to just be large bodies of water like oceans. Lakes and rivers, when the storm comes rolling through, the rushing of the river makes that treacherous as well, meaning that your normal passage is going to be stopped for probably a couple of days. It's a great way for a stall tactic as a dungeon master if you're not quite done with the players in that area and want to introduce a couple of more hooks. Doesn't mean the players have to take it. They may wait out their 2 days and be off, but it's a great way to create a reason that the players are not able to move on. Now, I telegraph this. If I'm going to strand the players, I telegraph the storm, that pressure bringing in, what are you going to do? And I allow them to be creative, because sometimes the players see surprise, even me. The other thing about storms in Dungeons and Dragons is they can last for days, weeks, even months. Remember, we play in a world of magic, mystery. What if there's an ancient being that's coming up and with it comes a storm, and that storm stays for a month? Maybe it's predictable. Maybe you know that storm season is coming, and then for when it's storming out, the storm stays, the rain stays, and normally the town shuts down for a month. But you as adventurers can't just shut down, so you're going to have to adventure out into the weather, into the wild, into the storm. What does that do to your armor? What happens when the underneath of your breastplate gets wet? It's miserable, it's itchy. Do you get exhausted? Do you get hindrances on dex checks? There's so many amazing things you can do when you're sopping wet, because trust me, it is not pleasant. And if you're traveling through and never getting dry, it has a hindrance on you as well. Do you get maybe a negative on your con checks? It depends on you as the dungeon master and what creative way you want to do this. But remember, storms in D&D don't have to last a legitimate amount of time. They can last for as long as you want, and all you have to do as the dungeon master, it gives it a semblance of realism. So I would love to see how many storms you can come up with that last for months, and the reason why behind it. With storms in Dungeons and Dragons, there's also the perpetual raging storm, meaning an area that is affected by magic, where the storm never goes away, is forever raging. There's nothing more that I have to say with this, but it keeps people at bay. What is in that area that you need access to? What was there? Was there once a race of people that lived under the, constant blanket of dark skies with lightning and thunder and wind and rain? And they did so successfully. Did they live underground, creating streams and rivers that flowed from above and through their villages and into giant underground lakes? Did they actually one time get so full because it got plugged by an ancient beast? There's so many amazing things you can do with a perpetually raging storm over an area and a race that could even live there. In fact, I may have to do something with that. But what could you do with an area that was perpetually raging by storms and was not in the middle of the ocean, protecting an island? Because we've seen that one done one too many times. So those are a bunch of reasons you should be using storms in Dungeons & Dragons. The ability to actually change the terrain, affect combat, controlling where your players can kind of go when you need to as a Dungeon Master. Now, I am not for railroading. So when I say control your players, what I'm referring to is the ability to take a second and make it so your players have challenges put in front of them that then allow you as a Dungeon Master to prep. Not all of us are improv DMs. Some of us need time to prep. So any tool we can use to help limit, hinder, change where the players are going allows us as Dungeon Masters to have more for our players to enjoy. So remember, storms are a tool, just like any other weather phenomenon, but remember, you can telegraph a storm or you can have it come up fast. Either way, it looks like you as a Dungeon Master have something planned. Storms are an amazing thing to bring on spur of the moment. All you have to do is prep a storm once. It's amazing what they can do. So guys, as always, make sure that you like, make sure that you comment, subscribe, share this video with an unsuspecting Dungeon Master that you want to give them some tools to mess with you as a player. I'm always looking for new mechanics to have thrown at me. And as always, guys, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you helping us grow the channel. You take care.